Wednesday, August 31st. You should be reading Isaiah chapter 30, 31, and 32, as well as 1 Corinthians chapter 5. As you've been diving into this book of Isaiah, again, I hope that you keep seeing this tension that's playing out, this tension of the judgments to come because of turning our back on God, but also Israel's hope and a future because God is sending a Messiah to save them. And he keeps going back and forth and reminding them that despite the circumstances that are to come, despite the trouble and hardships that are going to come because of their choosing to be disobedient to God, hope is coming. In this passage, though, that we're going to read today, you're going to read 3 back-to-back texts of Isaiah just warning them that you're making the wrong choice. He's telling the kings and leaders of Jerusalem that they are in this time period where the Assyrian army looks scary, the Egyptians look scary, and so they've tried to find hope in Egypt and tried to find hope in Babylon and trying to find all these help. And he's saying you're finding hope in the wrong places. You're crying out to help in the wrong places. These people are going to turn their back on you. And then fast forward, what happens is Judah makes a covenant and a promise with Egypt for help, and it doesn't work out. So then they make a promise with Babylon, who seems to be a good person to help out, and they show off their wealth, they show off their riches, they show off everything. You can read for this in yourself in the book of 2 Kings. They show off all these things, and what happens is Isaiah says, you're showing off these things to Babylon, and it's going to come back to bite you. And about 100 years later, Babylon goes from being a friend and an ally to overcoming them, taking them into captivity, taking them off and hauling them off to Babylon, also taking all their riches and wealth, everything they showed off 100 years previous because they made their choice to cry out to help in the wrong places. As I was just reading through this, I was reminded of a story when I was just learning to ride a bicycle. I went from riding with help to riding just two-wheelers, right? But I still wasn't the most confident kid in the world riding a bicycle. Even in 3rd or 4th grade, still building my confidence. And riding on busy roads, right, with cars going by you can be a scary thing even as a kid. And I just remember my dad saying, just ride in front of me. I'm right behind you. Ride straight to the side and you'll be okay. Well, I forgot what my dad had told me, and I was riding along and he was right behind me. We were at a men's retreat and this car goes driving by and it scares me, and I pedal up because I start freaking out about the car behind me and behind it, and I end up going off into the ditch and hurting myself. And I have to this day a scar on my leg because I was not thinking about the words of my dad. I was so worried about the things going on around me, driving by me, the things going on, that I forgot the words that my dad told me, that I would just drive straight and trust that he was behind me, it would be all okay. And I still bear the scars on my leg today from the time of me choosing not to be listening to my dad. And I remember crying out for help. And my dad showed up. He was right there, like he said he would be. And despite me making the wrong choice, despite me not listening to him, he wrapped me in his arms, he picked me up, he took me to find some help, a nurse who bandaged me up, and to this day, he could have been like poking at me, he's like, should just trusted me, should just did this. That's not what my dad did though. He just picked me up and loved me. He knew that I was hurting, he knew that I knew I had done wrong, and I should have just listened to him and trusted him. But I still bear the consequence of that, right? I still have the scar on my leg from not listening to my dad. And the same is true for Israel. They're going to go into captivity. There's going to be a scarring process. They're going to be in exile because they chose not to listen. But there's hope. God cradles them up in his arms. He says, I'm going to rescue you. I'm going to bring you back. I just wish you would have trusted me through the process. This beautiful thing comes out of, right? If you read through this chapter 30, 31, 32, there's a lot of condemnation towards them, of just that they turn their back on him and he's really disappointed in them. But this cool thing happens. In verse 19 of chapter 30, it says, people of Zion, that's the mountaintops of Zion, that's where Jerusalem was built. People of Zion who live in Jerusalem, you will weep no more. Before this, he says in verse 18, the Lord longs to be gracious to you. He will rise up and he will show you compassion, for the Lord is a God of justice, and blessed are all who wait on him. So people of Zion who live in Jerusalem, you'll weep no more. How gracious he will be when you cry out to him for help. As soon as he hears, he will answer you. God loves us. God loves you. He has a plan for you. He designed you with a purpose and a mission, and he sends you. And sometimes we do a really good job of listening to him, and sometimes we make allegiances and we cry out to people for help near us instead of crying out to God. And when we do, when we make compromises with the things that we told God we would be faithful in, and we make compromises with things around us, and we try to take things in our own hands, there's consequences to that, and we just make it worse. But God says, cry out to him for help. He'll scoop you up, he will love you and take care of you. And so I don't know where you're at today. As you're watching this, maybe you're reaping the consequences of forgetting to rely on God. I know I do that. I have days and times where I choose to be faithful and trust God, and there's times where I make my own plans and I don't trust very well, and then consequences happen. But no matter where we are today is a new chance for you and for me to just pause and to cry out to God for help. He'll scoop you up, he'll love you, he'll bandage your wounds, and he will continue to move you forward. It doesn't mean that you won't bear the consequences or the marks, but you can have a new chance at life today. You can have a chance to start over with Jesus. Every day it's a new beginning, to place trust in God and to trust that he has a plan for you and a mission for you. So live within that mission today, friends. Until we see each other again, you are sent.